While we were going pretty strong in Howe, along came Anita Bryant with her nationwide crusade against gays. Well, she was scheduled to do just a singing appearance at the Bloomsburg Fair, which is the nicest fair in the state of Pennsylvania in my regard, and it's only about 45 minutes away from Williamsport. So we as a gay group thought, well, we got to do something. Because her appearance there, even though it was just a singing engagement, she posed a threat to our kind of people, our community, you know. So Hal was not very thrilled about that. So Gary Norton and I and a couple of members from NOW, the local chapter of NOW in Williamsport, started up our separate group to sponsor a rally against Anita Bryant's appearance at the Bloomsburg Fair. And this organization did sponsor a rally. We had speakers in Town Park in Bloomsburg, and then we marched to the fairgrounds and marched around the fairgrounds the day of her concert, not the night of, but the day of. And then once the fairgrounds got wind of it, they asked us to be quiet and leave. But during the rally, I was one of the speakers. In fact, I think I was the first speaker in Town Park, and there were TV cameras there. And it was like from Channel 16 or Channel 28, one of the Wilkes-Barre Scranton stations. And they televised a part of my speech on the evening news that night as to what was going on and what was there. Because on the Channel 16, they were telling about this, there's going to be a rally in Bloomsburg contra Anita Bryant. They were talking about that for days and days and days before it happened. Mm-hmm. So naturally, they were going to go there and cover it. So my speech made the airwaves. Well, after that, there was a teenage gang in my neighborhood at home that didn't like that. They didn't like the fact that I was on TV, and didn't like the fact that I was gay, and didn't like the fact that I was living there in their neighborhood. And they started attacks on my house. And they threw things, tomatoes, and well, it got worse. The tomatoes became stones. The stones even at one point became bricks. And eventually they had knocked out almost every window. And I was forced to move.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what happened with that whole process? You obviously went to the police, correct? And
they did very little. Yeah. I mean, every policeman that was there, because every time there was damage, yes, I called them, yes. They wrote it down, they wrote it up. I had no proof, I had no witnesses, but I knew who it was, you know. And they didn't, I don't know what they did. I don't know what they did. But some of them were more receptive in taking down the information than others, you know. I mean, some of them, you could tell, were sympathetic to what was going on, and some of them weren't. But eventually the house, I had to move. My life could have been over. The attacks could have happened. I could have been hurt. So I moved. I moved out of the area to a small trailer. This was my family home. I inherited it from my mother and my father, and I was an only child, so I lived there. It was my home, and so I had to give it up. And I lived in a trailer for 5 years until I thought it was safe to go back to Williamsport, until it all blew over. This also, of course, caused the death and demise of Hal, because people were just too afraid to come to my house for anything.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what did that do to the whole climate in the gay community up there? I mean, it sounds like it really was a chilling effect.
Well, like I said, it closed the organization at that time, and it took a few years for us to rebound. Bars were still going on, but in terms of organizations, and eventually I started another one up while I was living out of town in this trailer in Linden, and I believe that was West Branch Gay Support Group, we called it. It didn't last very long, but it served it was like a small Howe. You know, people were still afraid to come back out. But they did, some did, and we got new people. Again, it was through a P.O. box and through newsletters and just word of mouth and telephoning and so forth. But that only lasted a couple of years, you know. A friend of mine gave me enough encouragement to say, hey, I'll help you start a new group if you want, you know, so that's what happened. And then later on down the road, we had our longest lasting gay organization, which was Susquehanna Lambda. And through Susquehanna Lambda, we were able to start our own gay and lesbian switchboard of North Central Pennsylvania, which was a big help for a number of years in terms of referrals of people to us and to other places.